What if? Today, I want to make an argument that those two words, what if, are two of the most unhelpful, even destructive words that you can use as you seek to move away from porn towards a better life. Those two words, what if, when served up, almost always lead you down a bad pathway. I'll explain after the break. Welcome aboard.
Ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, we are early in September of 2024, and I've just started two new Finding Traction groups. It's where we pull together. Our goal is to pull together 5 to 7 guys, and together I lead the group, and we walk through the 52-week Finding Traction video course, and also we connect with each other throughout the week. Two new groups we started. The first group we started, and we still have room for a couple more guys, 2 or 3 more guys. These are older guys, 50s, 60s, 70s. For you young guys, that would be older. Usually these guys have kids that are leaving home or have left home or are empty nesters. Maybe they're looking at or already in some version of retirement. And we have a group of guys. We have space for 2 or 3 more of those guys. And this is, we meet Mondays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also have a group just starting this week for a younger group of guys in their 20s and 30s. These are guys that are either single or maybe newly married, perhaps a young child sort of thing. And we have room for 2 or 3 more guys in that group. And that group meets at Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let me also say I have a couple guys that are waiting to start a group or waiting to begin with me. And I'm just going to call these guys Married with Children. Hopefully it's better than that really bad old sitcom Married with Children. But it's for guys, that are in the whole, the middle of not just navigating their addictive struggles, but they're also dealing with the pressures of a marriage, developing a career, raising kids. It's not easy, and they need support. And so my goal is to start one more group this fall for guys that we're just going to call Married with Kids. So if that interests you, let me know. That last Married with Kids group, we don't have time yet because we're still in the planning stages for that one. So if you feel that the time is right for you to step into a new stage of your recovery and you'd love to join a group, or even if you wouldn't love to join a group, you just think, I need to be in a group, then email me at bandofbrothers.care@gmail.com. Okay, so let's go back to these 2 words that I said were so harmful, so problematic in our recovery. And those 2 words are the words, what if? Now, to explain this, let me use the idea that if you've been around recovery circles, you've probably heard before the whole idea of the addiction cycle. I, for example, created my own version of this that you can see back in episode 73. It's called Stopwatch Recovery. And many of these ideas of cycles, they all have to do with the idea that when you look back on your behaviors, you'll notice that they follow a well-traveled, oftentimes cyclical pattern, and you go, I continually do the same things over and over and over again. Well, the first time that I know that was really laid out was by a sexual addiction guru called Patrick Carnes. And in his book, Out of the Shadows, he presented his version, or really the first time I came across this idea of the cycle around sexual or unmanageable or problematic sexual behaviors. And this is how he did it. And let me just give you the whole cycle, and then I'm going to pick on one stage for today. His very first step he called catalyst. A catalyst is something that sparks, or here's the word we often use, triggers. It could be something that is in your external environment. It could be something which is a pressing emotional state that you're in. And it's like the spark plug in an engine. If you don't have a spark plug in the old-fashioned engines, then of course you don't have that spark to ignite the gasoline in the piston. Now, I remember from a little bit of that from Power Mechanics 9. But here's the depressing news. You're always going to have a catalyst in your world. Now, you can perhaps reduce the catalyst. You can eliminate some of those catalysts with healthy boundaries, but you will still have them. You will still have presenting negative or uncomfortable emotions that you've paired with acting out in the past. You will still have somebody that you see out in the shopping mall, or you'll still have something you run across when you're online. So the catalyst is something that he starts with. Okay, let me just go through the rest of them quickly, and then I'm going to come back to this next one. He says the next one is fantasy. So catalyst is, he has that like at 12 noon, fantasy at 2 p.m., the ritual is 4 p.m., and rituals are just those oiled ways that you do those set of actions that you habitually practice as you move towards what he has at 6 o'clock, which is acting out. And then at 8 o'clock, he has denial. At 10 o'clock, he has despair. And then it starts all around those negative emotions. That shame, in one sense, acts as a new spark for a brand new acting out cycle. So just if you can visualize this, 12 noon catalyst, fantasy, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock ritual, 6 o'clock acting out, 8 o'clock denial, 10 o'clock despair, and then back all over again. And so we continue down the pathway. So I want to talk today about the second stage after catalyst that's kind of on his diagram at around the 2 p.m. mark. And he calls it fantasy. Now, I want to use the word fantasy, and I want to replace it with what I call the what ifs. And the what ifs, in my mind, are ways that we begin to slowly move out of reality, and we begin to move towards an alternate reality. What he says is the very first thing that happens after the catalyst is something happens in our mind. He calls it fantasy, but I want to call it what ifs. And before I get into some examples of what ifs, I want to go back to one of the most common, I actually overuse the metaphor, I know, the metaphor of tires and pavement and traction. I mean, after all, this course is called this podcast is called Finding Traction, right? So I want you to think of it this way. The pavement is terra firma, ground. It is life. It is reality. That's the pavement. The tire, work with me here, the tire is us. Whether we're driving with summer tires, winter tires, all-season tires, studded tires, the bottom line is we need to keep our grip on the road. If we don't have our grip on the road, our tires aren't firmly on the road, we lose traction. We begin to slip. So anything in this metaphor that causes a tire to lose contact with the road is not a good thing. For example, they say don't use your cruise control in a rainstorm because it can cause hydroplaning, a loss of traction. Of course, mud or slush or snow, or even worse, black ice, which is you can't see, of course. All of those things can cause a loss of connection, a loss of friction, a loss of traction between the tire, which is you, and the reality that you need to keep connected with, which is the pavement. Okay, so you're working with me here? So in this diagram, when we get to that 2 o'clock point, what I'm saying to you, what he calls fantasy, I am calling that your tires are losing connection, are losing grip, are losing contact with the road that they're supposed to be connected with. Anything that causes you to lose contact with the real world, i.e. fantasy, and elevates your tires even a small amount off the road is not a good thing. It's an alternate reality. It is fantasy. We've now left the real world and we're now moving into some kind of pseudo world. And I would submit to you that oftentimes that words what if are ways that we actually begin to lift that tire off the road and move from reality into fantasy. Let me tell on myself way back in high school. In high school, we used to always have the newspaper from the big city delivered to the our high school. And I remember looking through the newspaper, or it was a daily paper, and in the movie section, they always had the adult theaters down in Point Roberts, USA, and with all of the adult theaters and what they were playing, right? And now I was 14, 15, 16, so I'm not going to be going to them, but I would start by playing the what if. I wonder if I was older, what if I went to one of those movies? I started the what if game very early. The what if game plays out in our lives in so many different ways. How many married guys have asked themselves some version of the question, what if I was single again? Or what if I was not married? What if my wife passed away and wasn't in the picture? I mean, just theoretically, of course, I love my wife, right? I don't want to be a new episode on Dateline, right? What if on this business trip, I went to a strip bar? What if, where would they be on this trip? I don't think I'll go, but what if, right? It's almost all of our fantasies start with some version of what if scenarios. I mean, I don't need to tell you that the premise of most porn videos, even if outlandish, ask the viewer at some level to pretend what if. Now, that would be that's a really overt example. Let me give you something which is way more subtle. I had this guy I was talking to recently, and he said, you know what kind of tricks me up? When I start the what if game, I never start by asking sexual. It never is sexual. It's kind of innocent. It's kind of based on curiosity. So, I see this young girl at church, let's say, I might be in my 40s, but I say, if I was 18 years old, what if I was 18 years old? I wonder if she would be interested in me when I was 18, right? I wonder what it would be like. That sounds kind of innocent, doesn't it? What if I had married her instead of my present wife? I wonder. Now, we're not even getting to the point of, I wonder, what she would look like undressed. And it's just these kind of almost curiosity questions. Well, what if? I actually talked to a guy, this was more unusual, that he worked with a number of guys who struggled with porn, and just out of curiosity, he decided to see what guys were struggling with. It wasn't long before he was struggling with that. It kind of started with the what if questions. It's one of the reasons why in our Finding Traction course, we devote an entire lesson to the topic or the theme of gratitude. And in that lesson, we try to challenge people's what if thinking. Well, actually, it's kind of what if, but it has a little different phrase. See if you can hear it. Guys would say, wouldn't it be nice if? That phrase, well, wouldn't it be nice if? What if my situation was different? And we challenge guys that are caught in that kind of phraseology, and we talk about changing that phrase, wouldn't it be nice if, to isn't it great that? When I go around isn't it great that? Isn't it great that? It makes, all of a sudden, I begin to practice that. It makes all the difference in the world. And so whenever I'm going around, well, wouldn't it be nice if I had more money? Or wouldn't it be nice if I had a steady girlfriend? Or wouldn't it be nice if I was married? Or wouldn't it be nice if I was single? Wouldn't it be nice? What that does is that leaves us in a fantasy world. We've created the alternate world that we would wish to live in. And then guess what? Surprise, surprise, we find that we're discontented, we're unhappy, we're unsettled with the real life that we have, with the real relationships that we have, with the real marriage that we have. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if? But when we go, well, isn't it great that, we take our present circumstances, we cover them in gratitude, we make the best of them, and then we take the necessary steps of growth within them. And to quote my buddy Matt Dobschutz, we're no longer a victim, but an owner. It always starts in the mind. It often starts with those two words, what if? The more we practice the phrase, what if, it moves us from the trigger, moves us into fantasy, and eventually ends up in some sort of ritualistic behavior. So, next time you're tempted to practice what if, I really encourage you to switch it up to, you know what? Isn't it great that this, and this? Well, I hope you guys have a great week. Once again, I love it when people reach out to me. Thank you for some of the encouragement. I've had, 5 or 6 emails in the last month or two just by guys that have said, you know what? I haven't connected with you before, but I just want to let you know that this podcast has been encouraging in this way. This is my situation. And it's just been so encouraging for me to hear that the podcast is actually resonating with people and helping people. So have a great week. We'll see you next time.